It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I'm excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me is Tony Alessandra, an internationally recognized author of 27 books translated into a number of different languages. He's a speaker in the Speaker Hall of Fame and founder of the Platinum Rule Group, which provides products that helps salespeople build and maintain positive relationships with their customers. Now, anyone who's listened to the show knows that one of my passions is sales education, and not necessarily sales training, but sales reps committing to continuously learn whatever they can about sales, their products, and most importantly, themselves in order to be the best they can be. And it's usually easiest to get sales reps to learn about selling and sales skills and their products, but how much time do they spend learning about their most important sales asset, which is themselves, and how they work? And I would say they probably don't spend enough time on that. And my guest today, Dr. Tony Alessandra, is going to talk about assessments and self-assessments and learning tools that sales reps can use in the difficult task of building relationships with prospects that are the necessary precursor to winning business. So Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So take a minute to introduce yourself. How'd you get into this field?
Well, if we really want to go back to the beginning,
sure.
I went to Catholic grammar school, and one of the ways that they raise money is they have all the little kids, from first grade on up, go out typically every, month or quarter, selling something, whether it was candy bars or raffles or whatever.
Wrapping paper.
Whatever it was, we were out there selling, and I always did well. So people used to tell me, even as a little kid, they would reinforce, you've got the gift of gab, you got the power of persuasion, and I'm sure that stuck with me. Then, as I went away to college, my parents only had enough money to pay for my freshman year. And between my freshman and sophomore year, I got a job selling pots and pans, cookware, door to door.
I love it.
On the Jersey Shore. Product was called Salad Master. Ironically, I only found this out years later. At the same time I was selling Salad Master cookware on the Jersey Shore, one of the top salespeople from Salad Master was selling cookware in Texas. Are you ready for the name?
Mary Kay?
Zig Ziglar.
Oh, Zig Ziglar.
Yes. So anyway, I really, really did well. I mean, my first summer, here I was, a 19-year-old between freshman and sophomore year. In 9 weeks in 1966, earned almost $5,000. So
wow.
Was able to pay tuition. Back then tuition was really cheap. I think it was, maybe $2,500 either a semester or a year, plus books and stuff like that.
So what were you doing? I mean, why were you so good at it?
They trained us what to do. I really did have a good outgoing personality, and just followed the plan and did well and did better than even other people in that same office, the Jersey Shore office, who were taught the same things. But
So what was your first question? Can you remember what your open was?
I can't. No,
Okay.
This is a long time. Hey, wait a second. This summer will be 50 years ago that I actually started selling the cookware. Now, back then, Andy, listen to this. Back then, I was selling a 10-piece set of cookware for $300.
Whoa, that's expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. But, it was incredibly good cookware. Now, of course, I didn't realize that. We just preached, the gospel that they told us to preach. They told us it had a lifetime guarantee. It had Bakelite plastic handles, surgical stainless steel, copper interior, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I stopped selling, I actually got a set at cost for my mother. And 40 plus years later, my mother still was using the cookware. So it did have, in essence, a lifetime guarantee. And my mother, a classic New York Italian mother, used that cookware every day.
Right.
Not some people who might just use it sparingly. But anyway,
a lot of gravy and meatballs.
A lot of gravy and meatballs. That's right. So anyway, that also reinforced that I was good in sales. I sold a couple of other products. And then when I graduated college, I got an MBA at the University of Connecticut, graduated undergrad from Notre Dame. Then I went, I was 23 years old, had a brand new MBA, and got a job teaching at Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania. And what did I teach but professional sales? And did that 2 years there, 1 year at Cal State Fullerton. And the interesting thing about Cal State Fullerton is the head of the marketing department there was the author of the best-selling sales college text in the United States, but he had me teaching sales, not him. After that 1 year, right now I'm 26, I decide I want to get my PhD. I go to Georgia State University in Atlanta. They give me a full-time teaching position while I was getting my doctorate. And what was I teaching but professional salesmanship? And my doctoral chairman was a guy named Dr. David Schwartz. Now, I don't know if that name means anything to you, but he had a multi-million best-selling book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And it was a book that I had read as a teenager and had a big impact on me, positive thinking type book. And while I was there teaching sales, getting my PhD in marketing, calls would come into the university. And if it was a marketing problem, a business that would call. If it was a marketing problem, come to the marketing department. If it was a sales issue, they sent it to me. So that got me into the whole sales consulting and sales training, which eventually led to sales speaking. And once I got my PhD, came out to San Diego in the summer of '76, had a full-time position at the University of San Diego, again teaching a few different marketing classes, but of course professional salesmanship, marketing strategy at the graduate level, but was also on the side, I was doing sales training and speaking and writing my first book, which was called Non-Manipulative Selling. And when that book came out in January of '79, that is when I left teaching and became a full-time professional speaker. And the rest is sort of history.
The rest is history. Well, it is history. Yeah, it's a great history. So I want to kick off our conversation. So as we talked about in the open, or I talked about in the open, is talking about this issue of sort of professional development and sales, and I'd like start with this quote from Socrates about the unexamined life is not worth living. And I think you'd probably buy into that, but it seems to be the default for so many salespeople. They're always looking for external reasons why they aren't successful, aren't making money, aren't achieving, aren't happy. And it seems like you've really built your whole business around making them assess themselves first.
Absolutely. Back in 2000, I decided to spin off my entire staff into a separate business called Speaker's Office, and they manage now like 14 or 15 different speakers, top speakers, many in the Hall of Fame. And so what I did at the time is I took what was a fixed overhead, all these employees, the office, etc., and made it a variable cost. So when they booked me or sold my product, I just paid percentages. Then I took the money that I was earning from speaking, and I put it into a new business I started building, which was called Assessments 24/7. And I go all the way back to 1974 when I first got into the assessment business, which was a social styles assessment, social style sales type related questionnaire. And back then it was all paper-based up until '96 when I put it online. And then in 2000, I actually turned it into a business. And my first big customer was Ken Blanchard, the author of the One Minute Manager. So that really, really was the foundation of my business for many, many years. I mean, they were by far the biggest customer. But, little by little, I started getting other big customers and spreading the risk. If I lost Blanchard early on, I don't know if I would have stayed in that business. But the whole concept, Andy, was assessing salespeople, assessing managers. An assessment, the biggest assessment we sell right now, obviously, is called DISC. DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So it measures the behavioral pattern, the communication style of the salesperson, and gives them suggestions about what their strengths and struggles might be, so that they can actually develop a self-improvement path to get better at the things that they have the weaknesses in, and to enhance the areas that are really their strengths. It also serves as a blueprint for the sales managers in dealing with the salespeople in terms of training and coaching. That's the biggest assessment we use. We have a whole bunch of others. We have what we call the sales IQ assessment that I developed with Jim Cathcart and Jeffrey Gitomer. The three of us are co-authors of that, and a whole variety of others, Hartman Value Profile, the Motivators Assessment, and on and on and on.
Well, let me ask you a sort of philosophical question. So then, what are, after all your experience doing these assessments and seeing the results and working with companies, what are the biggest barriers to success that sales reps create for themselves?
Well, to me, the biggest single barrier is either their self-management skills, which means time management and organization, which may be lacking. A lot of people, when they look at this DISC concept, they believe that the I pattern, dominance, influence, they believe that the I pattern is the natural salesperson, and they certainly have the more natural persuasive skills. But one of their big weaknesses is organization, and sometimes they take on too much and don't finish things. Sometimes they promise more than they actually deliver. So that's a big weakness. The other big weakness is some people who get into sales, if they get into a slump, they don't know how to get out of a slump. And there's natural cycles, especially with outside salespeople. When they're out prospecting, they're not making a lot of sales. When they're making a lot of sales, they're not necessarily prospecting, and so they go into peaks and valleys, and they've got to learn how to level those out a little bit better. Maybe getting an assistant, getting somebody who does have the more organizational skills that they may not naturally have. So I think a lot, maybe self-talk, maybe a lack of training, maybe their natural bent for not being as organized as they should be.
Well, one of the real key things, because you talk about the power of being able to build, lasting, enduring relationships with customers, is increasingly, as we read more and more, so much depends on that first impression that a sales rep creates with a potential prospect. And my own research shown those are very sticky and hard to change. So I don't know. I've always sort of envied people that are really very facile with people up front, strangers. And to me, I'm a little more reserved. So when people have a hard time making that first connection, what aren't they doing that they should be doing?
Well, I think one of the things. Well, first of all, let's get to the first basic, and the first basic is the way they dress. All right. You want to dress as well or just one notch better than the people that you're calling on. We learned that in the speaking business. If I'm speaking to, let's say, hypothetically, people in the farm business, I'm not going to wear a three-piece suit. That doesn't work. But if I'm speaking to attorneys or CEOs, I'm not going to go in there with jeans and a polo shirt. So the first is that there is a first impression in the way you look, the way you carry yourself. So that's number one. Number two is, again, let's get back to this concept of DISC. All right. Mm-hmm. Each style, when you are trying to connect, to make that first impression, you've got to do some different things right up front. Otherwise, that old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Right. So for instance, with the D's, the dominant, the fast pace, bottom line, what we want to do in making a good first impression, skip the small talk, lead with the main points, and show up on time and fully prepared. With the I's, we want to make sure that we are a bit more upbeat, enthusiastic, allow them a little bit more time to tell stories. We want to develop the relationship before we get down to business. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. With the S's,
the steady people,
the more amiable relator types. We don't want to rush into the agenda. We want to develop the relationship. We want to take an active interest in them. We want to stick to business a little until they really warm up to us. They do business with people they trust. And with the C's, the more analytical thinking patterns, we want to skip the small talk. We want to bring an agenda, and we want to remain a little bit more cool, calm, and professional with them. So that it's not just the way we look and the way we carry ourselves, which is very important, but also how we open up. A lot of people think that, hey, we'll dress for success and that'll be the first impression. Well, it is good, but then eventually you got
to open your mouth. Right.
And that can quickly sink the ship.
Interesting. All right, we're going to come back and talk more about that. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back in just a second with my guest, Tony Alessandra, as we talk about self-assessment and various personality types in that DISC model that he had talked about. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Andy. Connect and Sell is used by sales reps at nearly 1,000 companies, including hundreds of technology startups and several Fortune 500 companies, to overcome the challenges of getting prospects on the phone. Companies using Connect and Sell grow their revenues faster by enabling their sales reps to have more sales conversations in 90 minutes than they could otherwise achieve in an entire week. Connect and Sell can be deployed directly to your sales reps, or you can take advantage of their outbound on-demand service, which delivers qualified prospect meetings scheduled directly on your sales reps' calendars. Visit connectandsell.com to learn more about how Connect and Sell can start filling your pipeline today. All right, I'm back with my guest today, Dr. Tony Alessandra, Speaker Hall of Fame, been working with hundreds and thousands of salespeople over the year about how to assess themselves to become better at building relationships. I guess the question is, okay, we do an assessment, and this is maybe a little more philosophical, but can people change? That's always the question I get asked, and people sometimes say they resist training, and sometimes resist this feedback they get through assessments because they're saying, I am the way I am, I can't change, or so on. But your opinion, can people change?
All right, so let me clarify something first, and that is some people call the behavioral models, whether it's social styles, whether it's True Colors, MBTI, mm-hmm. or DISC, some of them call it personality style. It is not personality style. Personality style is much more in depth, ingrained, genetic to some degree. What DISC is and other 4-style models, what they are behavioral styles, not personality styles. So can personality change? Well, yeah, but a lot of psychologists believe that from birth to death, you don't change your personality more than about 2% unless there's a significant emotional event in your life. With behavior, you can change your behavior from moment to moment, person to person, situation to situation. So can you change your DISC style? and the key here is adaptability. Adaptability is your ability to change your approach or change your strategy depending on the situation or the person you're dealing with. So can a D style, the dominant style, be adaptable? Of course. Can the I, the S, the C? Absolutely. Can you have one pattern at work and another at home? Yes. So, the whole thing is, yes, you can change your behavior, but there's two parts to it. All right. So when we talk about adaptability in my research and created with one of my co-authors, Dr. Michael O'Connor, what we have found is that adaptability consists of flexibility and versatility. Flexibility is your willingness to change, and versatility is your ability to change. Flexibility is your attitude. Versatility is your aptitude. So there are some people who know what to do, but decide, hey, it's my way or the highway. All right? This is the way I am, always have been, take me or leave me. So not much flexibility, but may have versatility. They may know what to do. I'm just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. Then there are people who say, yeah, I really want to change, but they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do differently when they're with a D, I, S, or C. I've labeled adaptability the platinum rule. We all know the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All right. In other words, treat people the way you want to be treated. But the platinum rule is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. In other words, treat people the way they want and need to be treated. And Andy, as we're speaking about selling, I then take that and say, really, really good salespeople, great salespeople, know how to adjust their selling style to fit the customer's buying style. So, again, I don't know if I've answered your question.
Well, no, I mean, it is. And I mean, sort of the next question and follow on what you just said is that, okay, we know the elite can do that. So the challenge is, how do we get a greater percentage of the sales reps to do that? I mean, we've got this bell curve or 80-20 distribution that we want to talk about in terms of performers versus non-performers. And there's increasing amount of focus these days in the field on saying, okay, well, if I can just make these sort of B players better, not necessarily make them consistently A players, but make them more consistently better, that has bigger impact on the company than anything I can do with those elite players. So it seems like challenges. Right. How do we get these people to become adaptable, to have the flexibility and versatility to adapt to the change that they need?
All right. So again, let me just back up. I'm going to do the bell curve that relates exactly to what you said, the great people, et cetera. So if we use the classic 80-20 rule, about 20% of the salespeople are naturals. They're good. They're in a constant learning posture. They're always trying to improve themselves. They're always going to get better and better. Then there is the bottom 20% who, they just either don't care, or no matter what they do, they're just not going to get that much better. Right. What we really want to focus on is that middle 60% that you're talking about, the B players. So we have A, B, and C. So with the B players, we have to show them either through proof or seeing other salespeople that have gone through the program, show them how their actual sales, their sales results, their customer loyalty, their customer satisfaction, and their commissions can go up by learning how to adjust their selling style to fit the customer's buying style, and then walk them through a program. For instance, I actually have a program. I call it my DISC virtual training. It's a video-based e-learning program, step-by-step, in bite-sized pieces that salespeople can go through. Tells them everything about the concept. After each little bite-sized piece, each bite-sized piece is anywhere from, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes. There's a quiz question. There's a big, end of program 20-question exam where they got to score 80%. And it walks them through the whole concept of DISC. How do you identify a customer very quickly based on their verbal, vocal, and visual communications? And then how do you adapt? How do you adapt in general? And then how do you adapt in each phase of the sales process? Everything from connect connecting with the customer, exploring their needs, collaborating solutions, confirming the sale, and assuring customer satisfaction. But this is it's not something that should be done, Andy, in a one-day program. Okay, we're going to put everybody through a one-day program, and hopefully by the end of the day you're going to know what to do.
No, the classroom training model is broken. I mean, what you described is the way we need to do it.
Right. Bite-sized pieces over a period of time. It's almost like painting a room that needs 3 coats. When you put on the first coat, you don't immediately put on the second coat. It smears. You wait till it dries. And that's what the whole concept of learning is. Little bite-sized pieces. Let it let the person digest it, use it, get comfortable with it, over a day, 2 days a week, and then add the next phase and the next and the next and so on. So we just have to make sure that as we're taking salespeople through this, we give them a little at a time, make sure they get comfortable with it, coach them on it, make sure they're comfortable with it before we add the next phase of this. And that's what this whole concept is all about, bite-sized pieces. But I will tell you this, after all these years, and I've been in this business, Andy, I hate to say over 40 years, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, and you mentioned thousands of salespeople, I'm going to actually probably say certainly more than 1 million, all over the world, many countries, this absolutely, positively, unquestionably works.
Good. Okay. Well, last question before we move to the last segment of the show is assessments, pre-hiring assessments. What's your take on that? Are they reliable? I mean, I get that question all the time from senior people that are doing sales hiring, and I'm kind of conflicted about whether they think it's a valuable tool or not. What's your take?
My take is it is definitely a valuable tool, but not the end all and be all of, hey, I'm going to hire or not hire based on the results of this pre-hire test. We have several different pre-hire assessments. Some are just a single assessment. Others are as many as 3 different assessments that are all integrated into some sort of an answer. But it's only one piece of the puzzle. We kind of tell our clients, use the selection assessments no more than 20% of what the hiring decision may be. Look at their experience, look at their credentials, look at their education, look at their experience, look at how they perform in an interview. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle other than just a selection tool. But it is another piece to the puzzle that I think is very important because it tells you where the person's strengths and struggles may be. And we don't basically tell somebody, don't hire. We just say, hey, we're going to give this person a grade, everything from an A to a D. Even people that get a D, if you want to hire this person based on all the other things that they've aced, that's great. We're going to tell you what to do in terms of training the person and making sure that you shore up the areas where they may have some weaknesses or some struggles. We have done this, by the way, in the academic environment, and we can actually, to a pretty good probability, predict which students are going to struggle in college. And we don't tell the university, don't accept this person. We simply tell the university, here is a person who early on is more likely than others to struggle. So what we suggest is, if you're going to accept this person, make sure early on you give them time management training, you give them study skills, and you have a tutor and support ready for them, because once they can get through the first, let's say, semester or 2, then they will be ready to do things on their own. Whereas other students can come in, who may have had high scores on this pre-selection tool, and they don't need all of that hand-holding up front. It's the same thing in sales.
Yeah, no, I think that's the part I think that a lot of managers don't realize is when you get this, use an assessment that gives you the information you talked about is, okay, you may hire this person, but this is what they're going to need from a support standpoint, because no one's perfect coming in, right? There's going to be pluses and minuses in all those categories.
Exactly.
And you can't use the assessments as a substitute for your own judgment, but as a data point along the way. But if you get that additional information that says, yeah, okay, if you do hire this person, Here's what you need to do for them, I think, is make sure you have an assessment that gives you that data.
Absolutely.
All right, well, good. We're going to move to our last segment of the show. I've got some standard questions I ask all my guests, and the first one is a hypothetical scenario where you're the star of the show. You've just been hired in this scenario. You've just been hired as a new sales leader at a company whose sales have stalled out, and they're looking for you to turn things around. And so what two things could you do the first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to customers, and I'm going to ask them how we're performing. How are the salespeople performing? How about our products? How about our company? I want to see if it's the salespeople, the products, the services, or the company policies and procedures. So I'm going to go to present customers, and I'm going to try to go to people who decided not to buy to try to find out what was it. Was it our people? Was it our products? Was it our competitors where we didn't come into place? Or do the trick. Then once I gather that information, I'm going to put together a program to start looking at ways to either improve one or more of our products and services, our company policies and procedures. I'm going to look at how we compare advantages and disadvantages to our major competitors, and look at where the salespeople are falling in various areas. And what I want to do is make sure that I create a program for the salespeople that is unique to each salesperson. I'm not going to put everybody through something on how to confirm a sale, because some salespeople may be better than others. I'm going to create, and this is why we have something called our Sales IQ Plus assessment. It's a way that we can assess individual salespeople and see where their strengths and struggles are, and create a unique, customized sales development program for each and every salesperson, rather than the entire sales force together.
Love it. Okay, great. All right, so here's some rapid fire questions. You can give me one-word answers if you want. You can elaborate. It's up to you. So when you, Tony, are out selling, what's your most powerful sales asset?
My personality.
Who's your sales role model?
Sales role model. Wow. I'm not sure I actually have one. I would say, I know who it is. Oh my gosh, Ricky. I can't think of his last name. Ricky Maladonia, something like that. He was my sales manager when I sold cookware, and he's the one who really was a role model for me. I mean, I watched what that guy did, and he was absolutely a superstar. Yeah,
I mean, sales is an apprenticip. I mean,
that's
people
right.
tend
That's
to forget
exactly
it's an apprenticeship. Right. Watching people is the easiest and best way to learn. What's the one book, other than any of your own, that every salesperson should read?
Psycho-Cybernetics.
Wow.
By Maxwell Maltz.
Haven't heard that title come up, and that's a great answer.
Yep.
All right, here's a tough question for you. What music is on your playlist these days?
I'm a baby boomer. So my playlist is either the late 50s, early 60s oldies, or the typically the early 70s sort of R&B soul jam type stuff, like the Manhattans, Love Smokey Robinson,
right.
Luther Vandross, those kinds of songs.
Barry White.
Well, not necessarily Barry
okay.
White. No, but this. I like the singing groups. I really do.
Four
Frank
Tops.
Lyman and the Teenagers, the Four Tops,
right.
the Temptations, the Shirelles. To me, the Shirelles were the greatest female singing group, more so than even Diana Ross and the Supremes. So those are the kinds of things I like.
Okay, great stuff. I wish we had more of that R&B these days. Though Aloe Black, if you get a chance to listen to him, I don't know if you listen to him, you should. ALOEBLAC, or maybe two C's at the end. Really, really good. He's a throwback. Quite good.
Good.
All right. So last question for you then is the one question you get asked most frequently by salespeople.
Boy. I would. That's a tough question. I'm not sure I can come up with one thing, but probably I would say probably the biggest thing is, how do I open up either a cold call sale or a referral sale, with somebody new, or I'm going to give you three. How do I effectively sell against strong competition? And then third, how do I really effectively close a sale without being manipulative? Like the tie down close, the sharp angle close,
Right.
Those kinds of things.
So let's answer. What's their answer to the last one?
I would say how to sell against the competition. That would probably be the biggest thing that I hear.
Okay, so answer that one. What's your answer when you get that?
Well, I tell them that what they have to do is take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side, put advantages. On the other side, put disadvantages. And then all the way to the very, very left, write down your 3 or 4 biggest competitors that you come in contact with, and then start answering those questions. Under the advantages, how you stack up against each and every competitor, that tells you how to build those advantages into your sales presentation. And on the disadvantages, what you need to do is make sure you have answers to those disadvantages, because they're very likely to come up in the form of objections if you are in fact in a competition against that competitor with a new client.
Okay, love it. Good. Well, Tony, thank you for being our guest today. Tell people how they can find out more about you.
Well, you can find out about me by either going to my assessment business. It's Assessments, ASSESSMENTS 24x7. So Assessments 24x7.com. You can come to my personal site, which is Alessandra.com, ALESSANDRA.com, or just send me an email if you want to chat with me. Dr. Tony at Dr. Tony at Assessments24x7.com. So it's DRTONY at Assessments24x7.com.
Perfect. Again, thank you for being our guest today.
My pleasure.
And
Andy,
remember,
thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, entirely. And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And one easy way to do that is to make this podcast Accelerate a part of your daily routine, whether on your commute, in the gym, or at your morning sales huddle. Make certain that you don't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Tony Alessandra, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining us, and until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.